At my daughter's wedding, her groom called me a pathetic beggar in front of 200 guests. "People who don't contribute don't eat," he announced. Laughter erupted across the ballroom. 200 people stared at me. The broke father, the warehouse worker in a borrowed suit, the man who didn't belong. I stood to leave. I couldn't take another second of this humiliation. That's when a hand touched my shoulder. A stranger in a $10,000 suit. Silver hair. Eyes that had seen things. He whispered, "Pretend you're with me. Trust me." What he said next left the entire room speechless with shock. If you're watching this right now, comment below. Where are you from, and what time is it? Let me know you're listening. But let me back up. The Grand Harbor Hotel sits on the edge of the bay, all glass and gleaming chandeliers. I arrived at 6:30, my hands shaking as I straightened the borrowed tie. Emily had sent the invitation 3 weeks ago, but she hadn't called, hadn't visited. Still, I came. Inside the ballroom was white tablecloths and gold-rimmed china. Flowers spilled from crystal vases. A string quartet played in the corner. I searched for Emily's face, but saw only strangers in designer suits. People who belonged. I didn't. A woman with a clipboard found me. "Miller, table 18. She pointed toward the back, past the dance floor. Table 18 was 3 feet from the kitchen door. The clatter of dishes echoed around me. The other seats were empty. I sat down, my cheap suit itching, and tried to disappear. Waiters passed by with trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres, but none stopped at my table. My plate stayed empty. That's when I heard her voice. Well, I suppose even the help needs somewhere to sit. Diane Whitmore stood beside me, diamonds catching the light, her smile sharp as broken glass. Her husband Victor loomed behind her, amused. "Mrs. Whitmore," I said, standing. "It's nice to meet you. Emily's told us plenty about you, Mr. Miller. A warehouse worker, wasn't it, retired on disability?" She said it like the words tasted bad. My face burned. "Yes, ma'am. I had an accident." "How tragic." Her tone said otherwise. Victor chuckled. "Well, I'm sure Emily appreciates you making the effort, even if you're not exactly dressed for the occasion." They walked away. I sat back down, fists clenched, staring at the empty plate. Then Brandon took the stage. He looked like a movie star under the spotlight, his tuxedo perfect, his smile bright. Emily stood beside him in her wedding gown, her hand tucked into his elbow. She looked beautiful, nervous. "Ladies and gentlemen," Brandon began, his voice booming, "thank you all for being here tonight." He named his parents, his best man, his business partners. The applause was deafening. Then his eyes found me. "And of course, I should acknowledge my new father-in-law, Paul Miller." "Stand up, Paul. Let everyone see you." My stomach dropped. 200 faces turned toward me. I stood slowly. "Paul couldn't afford to help with the wedding?" Brandon continued, false sympathy dripping from his voice. "In fact, Emily had to pay for his suit tonight. But hey, we all come from different backgrounds, right? Some of us just happen to come from humbler circumstances. Very humble. Pathetically humble, you might say." He paused, his smile widening. "I noticed Paul's table is a bit empty. No food, no champagne. I suppose we forgot to include him in the catering count." Laughter erupted. "Don't worry, Paul. I'm sure the staff will bring you some leftovers after everyone else is served." Emily's face went pale, her eyes wide with horror. But she didn't say anything, didn't move. Brandon raised his glass. "To family, all kinds of family." The room erupted in applause. I couldn't breathe. The laughter echoed in my ears. I turned toward the exit, shoving my chair back, vision blurring. I needed to leave before I broke down in front of these people. That's when I felt a hand on my shoulder. I turned. A man stood beside me, tall and composed, his suit perfectly cut. His hair was silver at the temples, his eyes sharp. He looked at me like he knew me, like he'd been waiting. He leaned in close. "Paul," he said, "pretend you're with me. Trust me." I didn't know who he was. I didn't know why he was helping me. But when he wrapped his arm around my shoulders like we were old friends, something in his calm, steady voice made me want to believe him. Before I could speak, he turned to face the crowd, his hand still resting on my shoulder. The room had gone silent after Brandon's toast, the laughter dying down to scattered whispers. Every eye was on us. "Ladies and gentlemen," the man said, his voice carrying across the ballroom without effort. I apologize for the interruption, but I couldn't let this moment pass without saying something. He looked like he belonged in this room more than anyone else. His suit was impeccable charcoal gray, with a subtle sheen, his silver cufflinks catching the light. His hair was dark, with silver at the temples, his jaw sharp, his eyes intelligent and commanding. When he smiled, it was the kind of smile that made people lean in and listen. "My name is Alexander Cross," he said. I'm the CEO of Cross Industries, and I've been looking for Paul Miller for a very long time. The whispers grew louder. I heard someone gasp. Brandon's smile had frozen on his face. Victor and Diane stood near the head table, their expressions somewhere between confusion and alarm. Alexander's grip on my shoulder tightened, reassuring. 20 years ago, Paul saved my life. The room erupted in murmurs. I felt every eye shift back to me, but this time it was different. This time they were looking at me like I mattered. I was a young man then. Alexander continued, his voice softening just enough to draw people in. Fresh out of business school, working late at a warehouse in Queens. There was a fire. Faulty wiring, they said later. The sprinklers didn't work. The smoke was so thick I couldn't see my own hand in front of my face. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle over the room. Paul Miller was a forklift operator on the night shift. He could have run. He should have run. But instead, he came back for me, dragged me out through the smoke, burned his hands on a metal door handle, and didn't leave my side until the paramedics arrived. My throat tightened. I remembered that night. Remembered the heat, the smoke, the sound of Alexander, though I hadn't known his name, then coughing and choking in the dark. I'd done what anyone would do. I'd never expected to see him again. I've been looking for Paul ever since, Alexander said, his voice firm, now commanding. Because a man who risks his life for a stranger is the kind of man the world needs more of. The kind of man I'm proud to call my friend. He raised his glass still untouched from someone's tray and turned to face me. To Paul Miller, a true hero. The room hesitated for only a moment. Then one by one glasses rose. Applause began tentative at first, then growing louder. I stood there frozen, my face burning for an entirely different reason now. Brandon's expression had gone from smug to stony. Victor looked like he'd swallowed something sour. Diane's lips pressed into a thin, tight line. Emily was staring at me from the head table, her eyes wide, tears glistening on her cheeks. I wanted to go to her. I wanted to explain. But Alexander's hand was still on my shoulder, guiding me gently toward the side exit. Come with me, Paul, he said quietly, his voice low enough that only I could hear. We need to talk, now. I followed him out of the ballroom, past the murmuring guests, past the shocked faces of the Whitmores. My heart was pounding, my mind spinning. Outside the terrace was quiet, the cool night air, a shock after the heat of the ballroom. The lights of the bay glittered in the distance. Alexander turned to face me, his expression no longer smiling. His eyes were serious, urgent. Paul, he said, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper, your daughter is in danger. Real danger. What danger? I grabbed his arm, my voice cracking. Alexander, what are you talking about? He glanced back toward the ballroom, then pulled out his phone. His expression was grave. Paul, how much do you know about Brandon Whitmore? Not much. Emily met him 6 months ago. She said he was successful. I thought he was good for her. Alexander's jaw tightened. I've been investigating the Whitmore family for the past year. Money laundering, tax fraud. Nothing I could prove yet, but enough to know they're dangerous. He swiped through his phone. 2 months ago, Brandon's name came up in connection with Emily. That's when I started digging deeper. My hands were shaking. Why would you be looking into Emily? Because of you. Your settlement. $15 million for your warehouse injury. It's been tied up in litigation for 3 years, but it's coming through. Any day now. The world tilted. 15 million. After all this time, after the accident that destroyed my back and ended my career, the money was finally real. But how did Brandon know? Emily told him, Alexander said, reading my face. She didn't know any better. She thought she was in love. I shook my head. Even if he knows Emily's not getting any of it, it's my settlement. Alexander's expression darkened. 3 weeks ago, Brandon had Emily sign something. He told her it was insurance paperwork for after the wedding. My stomach dropped. It wasn't insurance, Paul. It was a financial power of attorney. The moment your money arrives, it becomes hers. And the moment it becomes hers, it becomes his. No. The word came out strangled. She wouldn't sign something like that without telling me. She didn't know what she was signing. Brandon buried it in legitimate documents. She trusted him. I gripped the terrace railing, the cold metal biting into my palms. So he takes the money and divorces her. Alexander was silent for a moment too long. What? I demanded. What aren't you telling me? He stepped closer, lowering his voice. This isn't Brandon's first time. I found 2 other women. Jessica Martinez in 2019, Rachel Bennett in 2021. Same pattern. Fast courtship, marriage, financial documents, signed under false pretenses. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear him. She disappeared before the case went to trial. No one's seen her in 2 years. I couldn't breathe. You think Brandon... I don't know what happened to Rachel, but I know Brandon walked away from both situations a very rich man, and I know your daughter is next. No. I pushed off the railing, my legs weak. I'll talk to her. I'll tell her to tear up whatever she signed. If you go to her now, Brandon will know. He'll move the money faster, or he'll take Emily somewhere you can't reach her. We need to be smart about this. Smart? I laughed, bitter and desperate. My daughter married a con man, maybe worse. I want you to save her life. The words hit me like a punch. I stared at him, searching his face for any sign he was wrong. He wasn't. Alexander leaned in, his voice barely a whisper. Once they have the money, Emily becomes disposable. Show me. My voice came out hoarse. Everything. Alexander pulled a tablet from his jacket. A woman's face appeared. Dark hair, kind eyes, smiling. Jessica Martinez, 28, real estate agent in Phoenix. Met Brandon on a dating app in 2019. Married 4 months later. He swiped to a wedding photo. Her parents died when she was 25. Left her $8 million. I couldn't look away. Brandon told her they'd start an investment company. Had her sign partnership documents. They were power of attorney forms. 3 weeks after the wedding, the money was gone. Brandon was gone. My stomach turned. Alexander swiped again. A news headline, Local Woman Dies by Suicide After Financial Fraud. 6 months later, Jessica took a bottle of pills. Left a note mentioning Brandon's name. His voice was flat. His lawyers buried her family in motions. By the time anyone could build a case, she was dead. And no one arrested him. I felt sick. They couldn't prove fraud. He swiped to another photo. Blonde hair, confident smile. Rachel Bennett, 34, marketing executive in Seattle. Met Brandon at a charity gala in 2021. Married 5 months later in Cabo. She'd sold her startup the year before. $12 million. The pattern was unmistakable. Brandon told her about a real estate investment. Had her sign authorization forms. Same scam. 3 weeks after the wedding, everything disappeared. But Rachel fought back. Hired investigators, threatened to go public. Alexander paused. And I asked? 2 weeks after she filed her lawsuit, Rachel vanished. Apartment locked from inside, but she was gone. No forced entry. No body. His eyes met mine. That was 2 years ago. No one seen or heard from Rachel Bennett since. The terrace spun. 2 women. 8 million, 12 million, 1 dead, 1 missing. How is he not in prison? My voice shook. His family has lawyers. Connections. Alexander's jaw tightened. Without a body, police couldn't charge anyone. Brandon had an alibi. I gripped the tablet knuckles, white. Jessica's face. Rachel's face. Both young, both successful, both destroyed. Emily is just like them. The realization crushed me. Successful, trusting. Yes, with access to $15 million. What do we do? The FBI has been investigating the Whitmore family. Money laundering, fraud. They need evidence and a witness. Alexander's hand landed on my shoulder. I have a contact, but we have to move fast. Your settlement could come through any day. Once that money transfers to Emily, Brandon will act. We might have a week, maybe less. A week to save my daughter. I handed the tablet back, hands shaking. I wouldn't let Emily become the third face. Tell me what to do, whatever it takes. We approach Emily, carefully. If Brandon thinks we're onto him, he'll take her, like Rachel. Exactly. Alexander glanced toward the ballroom, where music still played, where my daughter celebrated with a man who planned to destroy her. We have to move fast, Paul, before the money comes through. I had to talk to Emily, tonight. I left the hotel and pulled out my phone. She'd answer. She had to. The phone rang 3 times. Hello? My heart sank. Brandon's voice. I need to talk to Emily. She's sleeping, Paul. It's been a long day. Call tomorrow. Wake her up. This is important. She needs her rest. Good night, Paul. The line went dead. I got in my car and drove. Emily's apartment was 20 minutes away. I parked out front and ran to the entrance, taking the stairs 2 at a time. When I reached her door, I knocked hard. Footsteps. The lock turned. The door opened 6 inches, held by a chain. Brandon's face appeared in the gap. Paul, what are you doing here? I need to talk to Emily now. She's resting. You need to leave. Emily, I called past him into the apartment. Emily, it's Dad. Movement behind him. Emily appeared in the hallway, wrapped in a bathrobe, hair loose. She looked exhausted, her eyes red-rimmed, her face pale. Dad, her voice was small. What are you doing here? Sweetheart, I need to talk to you. It's important. She took a step forward, but Brandon moved between us, his hand resting on her arm, not grabbing, just resting there. A gentle touch that somehow looked like a chain. Honey, go back inside, Brandon said softly. Your dad's just worried. You know how he gets. Emily's eyes met mine for just a second. I saw fear, exhaustion, a silent plea. Then Brandon's hand tightened just slightly and she looked away. I'm okay, Dad. Just tired. It's been a long day. Emily, please. Good night, Paul. Brandon stepped back, pulling Emily with him. The door swung shut. The lock clicked. Then the deadbolt. I stood there, staring at the closed door, fists clenched. I wanted to break it down, but I couldn't. Brandon was her husband. This was their home. I was powerless. Back in my car, I texted Emily. Emily, this is urgent. Brandon is not who you think he is. The insurance papers you signed were financial documents. Please call me when you're alone. I love you. I waited. 30 minutes later, my phone buzzed. I'm fine, Dad. Just tired. We'll talk soon. I read it 3 times. It was wrong? Too short? Too formal. Emily always signed her texts with a heart emoji. Always called me Daddy, not Dad. This wasn't Emily. This was Brandon. At home, I couldn't sleep. I sat on my bed, phone in hand, checking it every few minutes. The hours crawled by. Midnight. 1 a.m. At 2:03 in the morning, my phone buzzed. A new message from Emily. I'm scared. 2 words. No punctuation, no emoji. My blood ran cold. I tried to call. Voicemail. I texted back. Where are you? Are you safe? No response. I called again. Voicemail. Emily, answer me, please. Nothing. I sat in the dark, my phone clutched in both hands, my daughter's words burning into my brain. I'm scared. I hadn't slept. Every time I closed my eyes, Emily's text flashed behind them. I'm scared. 2 words that dug into my spine and refused to let go. At 6:30, I gave up. I pulled on yesterday's clothes, grabbed my keys, and stepped into the cold hallway. I needed coffee. I needed air. I needed to think before panic finished eating me alive. The parking lot was nearly empty, just a few scattered cars and a black Mercedes idling near the exit. I barely noticed it until the driver's door opened and a man stepped out as if he'd been waiting for me. Victor Whitmore. Tall, silver-haired, immaculate suit, every inch the kind of man who lived in boardrooms and believed the world should move out of his way. He approached with practiced confidence. Paul Miller, he said, smooth as polished steel. We need to talk. My stomach nodded. How did you know I'd be here? I know many things, Paul. He stopped a few feet away, hands in his pockets. For instance, I know you've been making a nuisance of yourself, calling my daughter-in-law, showing up uninvited. She's my daughter. Victor's smile never reached his eyes. She is Brandon's wife, legally, and you need to back off. Not until I know she's safe. Safe? He tilted his head. From her husband, you sound paranoid. Unstable. That's what people will say after your behavior last night. Anger rose in my throat. I know what Brandon is, and what you are. Is that so? Tell me, Paul, what do you think you know? I know about Jessica Martinez, Rachel Bennett. For a split second, something dark, cold, sharp cut through his expression. Then it vanished, replaced by that false, calm smile. You've been talking to someone, he said quietly. Very unwise. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I opened the message. Ice poured through my veins. A photo of Emily, asleep, hair spread across her pillow, one arm under her cheek. The angle was too close, taken from inside her apartment. Timestamp 3:07 a.m. This morning, Victor's voice sliced through the ringing in my ears. We know where Emily is, always, and we know where you are, always. You sick? Choose your next words carefully. He stepped closer. This is a courtesy, a warning. Stop digging into matters that don't concern you, or you will regret it. If you hurt her, you'll what he laughed low and cold. You're nobody. A warehouse worker with a failing back and no resources. We have lawyers, connections. We have everything we need to make your life very short. He let the threat settle heavy as concrete. Emily is safe, he said. For now. But accidents happen, especially to people who interfere. He pulled out his keys. Go home. Forget Emily. Forget Brandon. And maybe you'll still have a daughter in a year. He walked to the Mercedes, got in, and drove away without looking back. I stood frozen, heart pounding, the photo still glowing on my phone. Emily looked peaceful, innocent, completely unaware someone had stood over her while she slept. I called Alexander. He answered immediately. Paul, what happened? Victor cornered me. He knows everything. They took a picture of Emily inside her apartment. Jesus. Alexander exhaled sharply. Listen, don't go near them. The FBI has enough. We'll have a warrant in 24 to 48 hours. That's too long. Paul, they're watching her. God knows what they'll do. Don't do anything rash. I have to see her. Somewhere public, somewhere safe. Be careful, he whispered. These people are dangerous. I know. I looked at Emily's photo one more time. I'm coming, sweetheart. My phone buzzed at 10 in the morning. Emily's name on the screen. Can we talk Riverside Coffee on 5th? 1 hour, please. I grabbed the folder. Alexander had prepared copies of everything. Jessica's photo, Rachel's case file, all the evidence. I arrived early. The coffee shop was busy, full of quiet conversations. I chose a back corner table and waited. Emily walked in at 11. Dark circles under her eyes, hair, and a messy ponytail, hands shaking. She slid into the seat across from me. I don't have long. Brandon thinks I'm at the pharmacy. I opened the folder and slid Jessica Martinez's photo across the table. Emily stared at the photo face, going pale. I slid another photo across. Rachel Bennett, marketing executive. Married Brandon in 2021. He took $12 million. She disappeared 2 years ago. No one's seen her since. No, Brandon wouldn't. The insurance papers you signed 3 weeks ago. What did Brandon say they were for? Her hands froze. Life insurance. For after the wedding. They were financial power of attorney documents, Emily. For my settlement money, $15 million. The moment it hits my account, it becomes yours, then his. The color drained from her face. I watched her remember. Brandon rushing her through the papers, smiling. Just sign here, honey. Oh my God, she whispered. Brandon's been different, she said, suddenly voice shaking. Cold, distant. He tracks my location, took my laptop, checks my phone constantly. Her voice broke. You're right. Oh my God, you're right. We have to get you. The door opened. Brandon walked in, not running, not shouting, just that calm confidence from the wedding. His eyes found our table. His face went cold. Emily, we need to go now. Emily looked up, tears streaming. Is it true? Did you marry me for my father's money? Brandon walked over, picked up the folder, flipped through it. Jessica? Rachel? The documents. Then he threw it on the floor and grabbed Emily's arm. We're leaving. No, Emily tried to pull away. I need to. His grip tightened. He pulled her to her feet. This man has been lying to you. We're going home. I stood. Let her go. Brandon raised his voice so the entire shop could hear. This man has been harassing my wife for days. Someone call security. Heads turned. She's my daughter, I said desperately. He's lying. A security guard appeared. Sir, step back. He's hurting her. I pointed at Brandon's hand on Emily's arm, but Brandon loosened his grip, smiled at the guard. My father-in-law has some issues. Paranoia. We've been very patient. The guard looked between us. Brandon in his expensive suit, calm. Me in my wrinkled shirt, desperate. The guard stepped toward me. Sir, you need to leave. Emily. She looked back, tears streaming. Dad. Brandon pulled her toward the door. She tried to resist, but he was stronger. Dad, please. The door swung shut. I shoved past the guard and ran outside. Too late. Brandon was forcing Emily into a black SUV. I saw her face through the window, pale and terrified as the car pulled away. I called Alexander. He took her. Brandon found us. Destroyed the files. She believed me, Alexander. She finally believed me, and now... The FBI has the warrant. Tomorrow morning. 6 a.m. They'll get her out. Tomorrow he knows she knows. He'll... 24 hours, Paul. Hold on. I hung up staring at the empty street. 24 hours. Later, through the apartment door, Emily heard Brandon's voice, cold and flat. You shouldn't have talked to him, Emily. You've made things very complicated. She tried the handle again, locked from the outside. She was trapped. I didn't sleep. At 5:30 in the morning, Alexander called. They're moving. Meet us at Maple and 3rd, 5 minutes. 3 black SUVs waited when I arrived, agents in tactical vests, checking equipment. A woman in an FBI jacket approached. Mr. Miller, Special Agent Martinez. Your daughter's in 314. Yes, Brandon locked her in from the outside. We'll get her out. She turned to her team. Let's move. We crossed to Brandon's building. My heart hammered. At 314, Agent Martinez knocked hard. FBI federal warrant, open the door. Silence. Brandon Whitmore. We have a warrant, open up. Nothing. She nodded. 2 agents swung a battering ram. 1 hit. 2. On the 3rd, the door crashed inward. FBI hands up. Brandon stood in the living room in sweatpants, face white with shock. Where's Emily? I pushed past an agent. Then I heard pounding. Down the hall. A closed door. I ran, grabbed the handle, locked from outside. She's in here. I kicked. Once. Twice. The frame splintered. 3rd kick, the door crashed open. Emily was on the floor, fist raised from pounding. Face streaked with tears, eyes hollow, still in yesterday's clothes. She looked up. Dad? I dropped to my knees and pulled her into my arms. She collapsed against me, whole body, shaking, and started sobbing. Deep, wrenching sobs. You're safe now, I whispered. You're safe, sweetheart. Her arms wrapped around me, holding on. Behind me, Agent Martinez read Brandon his rights. Brandon Whitmore, you're under arrest for wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. You have the right to remain silent. This is insane. Brandon's voice cut in. Emily, don't say anything. Call our lawyer. Emily buried her face in my chest. 2 agents cuffed Brandon. The front door opened. Victor Whitmore walked in and froze. Victor Whitmore. Agent Martinez turned. You're also under arrest. What? No. This was all Brandon's idea. I told him after Rachel to lay low. Dad, shut up, Brandon snarled. Save it for your lawyer. 2 agents cuffed Victor. I helped Emily stand. She swayed, and I caught her wrapping my arm around her shoulders. Agents moved through the apartment, bagging laptops, phones, papers. Alexander appeared beside me. They found everything. Financial records, offshore accounts. He paused. Brandon had a wire transfer scheduled for tomorrow morning. $15 million to the Cayman Islands. My stomach turned. Tomorrow. One more day, and the money would have been gone. We've got them, Paul, Alexander said. Solid evidence. Agent Martinez approached. We'll need statements from both of you. Tomorrow. Courthouse, 9 a.m. I nodded. Whatever you need. I guided Emily toward the door. As we passed Brandon in handcuffs, he looked up. This isn't over, he said, voice cold. Emily flinched. I pulled her closer and kept walking. Outside, morning sun was rising. Cool, clean air. Emily stopped on the sidewalk and broke down crying again, her whole body shaking. I held her tight. You're safe. You're safe now. When she finally pulled back, some of the terror had left her eyes. Alexander appeared. Paul. I looked up. The trial starts tomorrow, he said. Are you ready? I looked down at Emily, at my daughter, who was finally safe, then back at Alexander. Yes, I said. I'm ready. The courtroom was silent as the judge read the verdict. Brandon Whitmore, you have been found guilty of wire fraud, money laundering conspiracy, and unlawful imprisonment. You are sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. Brandon's face went white, then red with rage. This is your fault, he shouted at Emily. 2 marshals grabbed his arms. Emily's hand tightened in mine. The judge turned to Victor. Victor Whitmore, conspiracy and witness intimidation, 7 years in federal prison. This was all him. Victor pointed at Brandon. After Rachel, I told him to stop. Enough! The judge's gavel came down. Take them away. Emily exhaled beside me. It's over. I squeezed her hand. It's over. 1 week later, the civil court annulled Emily's marriage. She walked out legally free. The $15 million settlement arrived shortly after. After 3 years, the money that had caused so much pain finally meant freedom. 6 months later, I stood behind the counter of Miller's Bakery, watching Emily arrange croissants in the display case. The small shop wasn't fancy, just warm lighting, a few tables, and the smell of fresh bread. These croissants are incredible, Mrs. Pierce said, one of our regulars. Emily's recipe. She's the real baker. Emily smiled. A real smile, the kind I hadn't seen in years. The door chimed. Josh Martinez walked in carrying daisies. 29, third-grade teacher. He'd been coming in for coffee for months, talking to Emily for weeks. You didn't have to, Emily said, smiling. I wanted to. You deserve them. I turned away to give them privacy. Emily deserved someone who brought flowers, just because. Someone kind. The door chimed again. Alexander Cross walked in. Usual Paul. I started his Americano. How's business? Good. Not too busy to check on my favorite baker. He glanced at Emily and Josh. She looks happy. She's getting there. Healing. And you? Better than good. I speak twice a week now. Community centers, libraries. Financial safety, protecting families. I handed him the coffee. I showed Jessica's and Rachel's photos. They deserve to be remembered. The Whitmores, still in prison, appeals denied. They're not getting out. Good. Some days I still saw Brandon's face, heard Victor's threat. But those memories were fading, replaced by better ones. Emily's laugh, fresh bread, customers who became friends. I thought about that wedding, standing in that ballroom called a pathetic beggar, the shame, rage, helplessness. I'd lost everything once, nearly lost my daughter. But I'd gotten back what mattered. Family was everything. When something felt wrong, I'd trusted that instinct. Justice took time and persistence, but it came. Pain became purpose. Emily caught my eye and smiled. Josh made her laugh. Alexander enjoyed his croissant. This was my life now, not perfect. Scarred, but free. An elderly woman approached. Mr. Miller, I heard your talk last week about scams. I wanted to thank you. I almost fell for something similar. Your story helped me recognize the signs. My throat tightened. I'm glad. That's why I tell it. She ordered coffee and a muffin. As I handed them over, I thought about all the Jessicas and Rachels out there, all the Emilys who might not have someone willing to fight, all the Pauls who might give up. If my story could help even one person protect their family, recognize the warning signs, find the courage to fight. Then every moment of pain, every second of fear, every sleepless night was worth it. I looked at Emily laughing with Josh, at Alexander relaxed and smiling, at the bakery we'd built from the worst year of our lives. Worth it, every single moment. Looking back now, I realize how close I came to losing everything that mattered. This true story taught me lessons I wish I'd learned earlier. Lessons I share now in my grandpa stories to anyone who will listen. Don't be like me. Don't ignore the warning signs because you're afraid of being wrong. I saw how Brandon isolated Emily, how he rushed the wedding, how that insurance paperwork felt off. But I stayed quiet, afraid of pushing my daughter away. That silence almost cost her life. Don't be like me. Don't underestimate evil dressed in expensive suits. Brandon and his father looked respectable, sounded educated, seemed legitimate. I judged them by their appearance and nearly lost my daughter to their carefully crafted lies. Don't be like me and wait for someone else to save your family. I wanted to believe the police would help, that the system would protect Emily automatically. But justice required action, required Alexander's resources, and the FBI's authority, and my willingness to fight even when I felt powerless. The lessons from this true story are simple, but vital. Trust your instincts when something feels wrong. Investigate. Ask questions. Don't let fear of conflict silence your protective instincts. Your family's safety matters more than keeping peace with predators. And when you're overwhelmed, when the enemy seems too powerful, remember what I learned. God puts people in your path at exactly the right moment. Alexander appeared when I needed him most, not by accident, but by grace. These grandpa stories I tell now aren't just mine. They're warnings lessons purchased with tears and fear and sleepless nights. That's why I keep sharing these grandpa stories wherever I can, because prevention saves lives. If my true story helps you recognize danger before it's too late, if it gives you courage to fight for someone you love, then share it. Comment below with your own experiences. Subscribe so more families can learn these lessons before they need them the way I did. Because the best victory isn't surviving evil, it's preventing it.